When it comes to bar tape, if you're like me and you've decided to give it a try, you've scoured YouTube for all of the how-to videos. You've no doubt discovered there are all sorts of ways to do it. Bike shop folks have their way, pro bike mechanics have their way, and the average person does it their way. Well, welcome to the 10,000th and first video on how to do bar tape. Hopefully after watching this you'll learn something new, or at least something different, so let's get to it. So I decided to go with the Chinelli brand that I found on Amazon. At $17, it's not too expensive, so it's not too big of a hit if I make a costly mistake and have to buy another box. Anyway, inside you'll find 2 short strips that help cover up the brake attachment, 2 rolls of tape, 2 plugs, 2 finishing strips, and a sticker. When you wrap your tape, you want to wrap in the direction where you apply the force. When you're in the drops, that force is away from the center of your handlebars. So on the right hand side, you're twisting to the right or clockwise. On the left hand side, you're twisting to the left or counterclockwise. As you move up the handlebars to the tops, the force you apply is downwards towards yourself. So on the left hand side, that's clockwise, and on the right, counterclockwise. As you work your tape up around the handlebar, you'll reverse the wrap after you pass the brakes. The idea here is, as you apply the force, you tighten the wraps, not loosen them. For a different perspective, I thought I'd record this video from my point of view. So let's start with the plugs. The box comes with standard plugs that you can just force in or tap in with a hammer, but I prefer the kind that you push in then tighten with an Allen wrench. I just think it looks a little cleaner. Remember, on the right side we want to start the wrap in the clockwise position. I usually start the tape in the 6 o'clock position with about half of the width of the tape hanging off the end. Wrap it around once, then start working your way up the bar just a few inches. Try to keep the sticky center on the metal and overlay your tape about halfway up. It's a little tedious if you just take your time. At this point, you have to stuff the plug into the end of the bar. I've always had great difficulty with this, despite the fact that everyone seems to make it look easy. You gotta just cram it in the best you can, and if you need to, take it out and start over. For my plugs, I tighten them with that Allen wrench. But this is not an easy process. You think you have it in right, then you gotta try again. As you can see, I'm struggling with this bar end, but eventually I get it to the point where I'm happy with it and get that Allen wrench out. Keep tightening. Okay. As you wrap, pull it so it feels tight and avoid leaving any gaps. It's hard to say what tight means until you do it yourself. All tape is different. If you mess up, just unwrap and try it again. If your tape has a sticky center, like I said before, just pull the cover off as you go along. Carefully work your way up towards the brake, keeping it tight and always looking for gaps. Just when you think you have it, sometimes you have to start a whole section over. So as you're wrapping up, just keep going until you're right underneath the brake. For this particular brand of tape, there was a C written on it, and I kind of used that as a guide, but always just wrap. Keep the sticky side on the metal, wrap about halfway up the bar tape that you just applied. So just keep wrapping it around. Eventually, you'll be right underneath the brake. When you bring the tape around again, this is when you start moving up towards the top of the handlebar. Sometimes you have little knobs that you might have missed, so just unwrap, do it again, and fix it around the second time. This happens all the time when I wrap my tape. Sometimes I just have to undo it and start over. It's really no big deal. I can't tell you how many times I've had to wrap and unwrap tape to get it just right. So we're getting close to the bottom of the brake. Almost there. Come on, one more wrap and that should do it. So when you bring the tape around again, wrap it upwards and over the brake, avoiding these holes that the lugs on the brake hood need to fit inside of. So bring it over the top, wrap the tape around the front, underneath the brake one more time. Now you're underneath the bar, you're wrapping in the right direction. Once you complete that, wrap it under the bar and move on. As you can see here, we're moving in the counterclockwise direction on the top of the bar, and that's exactly what you want. And again here, you just keep wrapping, looking for gaps. If you have any gaps, unwrap, start over. It's not a problem. As I get closer to the end, I want my tape to end just before the C in the word connect on the handlebar. To achieve this, I wrap just past the letter C. It's at this point where you have to decide where to cut the tape. So I look for the side closest to the brake, because I know that's where I'm going to start my cut. I kind of eyeball that particular spot, because I want it to end right underneath the bar, not on the top or the back, just underneath. So just kind of eyeball it here, find your spot, find your scissors. As you can see, I'm pinching it off right about where I want to start the cut. When you do the cut it parallel with the wheel. So now here we go. We start cutting our straight edge again, parallel with the wheel. This cut edge becomes the final straight edge of your wrap. If you misjudge the cut point, just trim a little more off. Alright, it's looking pretty good. Again, the cut edge winds up being the straight edge and the end of your wrap. So at this point, take your electric tape, tape it on the end and tape it down. Do your best to keep it neat, but more than likely no one is going to notice if you have any imperfections. I don't use the finishing tape, but if you want to, go for it. Again, the goal is to end the tape wrap, in this case the electric tape, at the bottom of your handlebar. Try and keep the edges neat as best you can. Take your time, and if you have to undo the tape and do it again, just go ahead. It's really not a big deal. Okay, it looks pretty good. I think this is going to work out. Everything seems solid. Let's put the hood cover back on. Just about done with this side. Last bit of inspections. No gaps that I see. Everything looks pretty solid. So good job, and let's move on to the other side. So here we're on the left side of the bike, and remember on this side we want to wrap counterclockwise. Start the same process around the end of the handlebar. For this side, I personally use a rear view mirror for my plug, but the application is exactly the same. Cram it, tape in as best you can, then tighten it down. It's tedious, but just a little patience and you'll get it to fit. For me, this is the worst part of the whole process. So everything's pretty much the same as the other side. So what I want to do is just speed it up along here. It's kind of boring. So let's zip up through this side of the handlebar. We'll slow down again as we get closer to the brake, just so we can kind of see the wrap from the other direction. Just like on the other side, the goal is to reverse the wrap. So when we're on top of the bar and we're applying our force downwards, the tape will have a tendency to tighten itself instead of loosening it. So again, right around the top of the bar, right up underneath the brake. So far as it looks like I don't really like that wrap too much, so I'm gonna undo it. Am I gonna undo it? No, I like it. No, there's a little bump and there's a little gap in there, so let's unwrap it and try to hit it a little better this time around. So I am no expert, but just a little bit of practice and patience and you can make it look pretty good. Alright, so now we're going to start going up over the brake again to reverse the tape wrap again, avoiding the holes for the lugs that are on the brake hood. Wrap it over the top. Bring it down and around the front again. And now you're in a position to start wrapping in the correct direction. In this particular case, you are now wrapping clockwise. As I work my way up towards the end, on this side of the handlebars, we have the word connect again, but this time I'm going to be aiming for the T. I want to end it just before the T. Now, what's a little annoying is this bike has this fluid reservoir in the front. Most bikes don't have this. I think Giant thought they were being pretty creative, but it's really a hassle. It's brake fluid reservoir, like I said. And the cabling doesn't really come out of it in a way that'll give you a nice wrap, so you just kind of have to work through it. So again, here we are trying to end it right on the T, or right next to the T. So just pass it again, wrap it around over the T, look for your cut point. Again, the point you want to start your cut is the side closest to the brake. Cut straight, parallel with the wheel. Take your time. And remember, your cut edge now becomes the straight edge of the end of your wrap. Not bad. Sometimes you just got to clean the edges up, which is fine. Okay, let's get that electric tape on. And again, try and do it neatly. Make the edges line up as best you can. Wrap it around and try and make sure that the tape ends underneath your bar. Remember, no one's going to notice any small imperfections. Only you will. Okay, I think we have a finished project. It looks pretty good. Okay, I hope that helped with your own taping project. I think it's kind of fun, and there's all types of tapes and colors out there, so you can customize them to your own personal taste. If you found this time worthwhile, consider hitting the subscribe button for more content in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.